past midnight when the elevator doors opened with a dry groan. Dr. Lewin stepped out, his white coat heavy with the scent of antiseptic and fatigue. The hospital corridors were dim, the linoleum floors reflecting the pale green emergency lights. From somewhere distant, a machine beeped in a slow, uneven rhythm, like a heartbeat struggling to remember its own pace. Outside, rain fell against the windows in long, trembling streaks. The night shift was supposed to be quiet, but in Huiling General Hospital, nothing stayed quiet. One, the empty ward. Lewin was a third-year resident in internal medicine. The others called him meticulous, perhaps too serious for his own good. He rarely spoke unless necessary. He believed in science, order, routine, in the tangible things that could be measured, tested, and proven. But lately, he begun to notice things that didn't fit inside any medical textbook. It started 2 months ago when a patient in Ward 7, a young woman named Zhao Lian, died unexpectedly. Her file said acute respiratory failure, but Lewin had reviewed the records himself. Her condition was stable the night before. No signs of distress, no warning. Yet by morning, her body had turned cold, her face frozen in a silent scream. Since then, Ward 7 had been different. The nurses whispered that they heard soft weeping at night. Equipment malfunctioned for no reason. Lights flickered even after replacements. And sometimes on the monitors of empty beds, a faint heartbeat appeared, pulsing, irregular, alive. Lewin didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in data, in reason. So when he volunteered to take the graveyard shift, it was to prove to himself that fear was just a trick of exhaustion. That night, as he walked down the hall toward Ward 7, he noticed that the air grew colder. Not the natural chill of a hospital air conditioner. Something heavier, almost wet, like fog settling inside his lungs. He paused before the door. The plaque read, Ward 7, Respiratory Unit. A faint sound came from inside. Not a machine, not a voice. A slow, rhythmic dripping. Lewin pushed the door open. The ward was empty, or at least it was supposed to be. 6 beds stood in neat rows. White curtains hung still. Yet on the floor, near the last bed by the window, a pool of water gleamed in the dim light. Drip, drip, drip. It came from the ceiling, but the ceiling showed no leak. He sighed, probably condensation. He bent down to wipe the puddle with a cloth and froze. There was a faint footprint in the water. Water, small and fresh. He turned toward the door. The corridor beyond was empty. The only sound was the low hum of the fluorescent lights. Then, from behind him, came a whisper. Doctor! Lewin spun around. The ward was still. Every bed empty. The whisper was gone. But the puddle, it had spread, forming a trail toward the last bed, where Zhao Lian had died. 2. Zhao Lian. The next morning, Lewin found himself staring at Zhao Lian's old chart. She was 23, a university student. Pneumonia that turned severe, but she had been improving. Her lungs clearing, oxygen levels normal. He checked the last entry, his own handwriting. Patient stable. Discharge likely in 2 days. He remembered her faint smile, the way she thanked him for staying late. Doctor, she'd said softly. Sometimes at night, I hear crying from the hallway. Do you hear it too? He'd laughed then. That's just the pipes. But hadn't been the pipes, had it? He looked at her photograph in the file, an ID photo taped to the corner. Her face was plain, pale, framed by straight black hair. There was a small scar beneath her chin, the kind you wouldn't notice unless you looked closely. Now, even on paper, her eyes seemed alive. That evening, he returned to Ward 7 with a purpose. He brought a portable ECG monitor and set it up on the empty bed. He wanted to capture data. Any electrical interference, any sign of malfunction. Hours passed. Midnight came again. The lights dimmed to night mode. The ECG remained flat. He leaned back in his chair, exhaustion heavy in his bones. He must have drifted off for a moment, because when his eyes opened again, the monitor was beeping. Heart rate, 62 BPM. He bolted upright. No one was in the bed. The ECG leads hung loose, untouched. The beeping continued. Then the screen flickered. A faint image appeared, a line that pulsed once, twice, then steadied. And then, beneath the heart rate reading, letters formed on the digital display. Dr. Lee. He stumbled backward, pulling the plug. The screen went black. The silence that followed was absolute, heavy, suffocating. 3. The nurse. By the next day, Li Wen's hand still trembled. He told no one what he saw, but the night shift nurse, Mei Lin, caught him staring into space at the break room. "You've been in Ward 7 again, haven't you?" she said quietly. He looked up. "What do you mean?" "I've worked here for 10 years, she said. "Ward 7's always been strange. Even before Zhao Yin. The room used to be Ward 3A, the old ICU. During the SARS outbreak, 3 patients died there within a single night. One of the nurses, too. No one talks about it." He frowned. "You believe that?" Mei Lin hesitated. "I don't know what to believe, but I know what I've seen." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sometimes when I pass that hallway, I see a girl standing by the window. She's crying, but there are no tears. And when I call out, she turns, but her face isn't her face anymore." Li Wen felt something twist inside him. Logic said stress, hallucination, but the image refused to leave his mind. That night, he dreamed of water, of long hospital corridors submerged beneath a black tide, of a girl's reflection staring back from the surface, eyes wide, mouth moving soundlessly beneath the waves. When he woke, his sheets were damp with sweat. 4. The photo. 3 nights later, he found a small photograph slipped beneath his office door. No note, no sender. It was a picture of Ward 7, old, yellowed, probably from decades ago. In the photo, 6 beds stood in the same positions. But near the last bed, by the window, stood a figure. A girl in a hospital gown, barefoot, head tilted slightly, hair obscuring her face. Li Wen's heart pounded. He flipped the photo over. On the back, written in faint pencil, "I'm still here." He felt something cold touch the back of his neck. He turned. The hallway behind him was empty, except for a single wet footprint on the tiles, leading toward Ward 7. 5. The confession. Li Wen couldn't concentrate on his rounds. Every time he passed the ward, he felt eyes on him. Finally, he went to the archives, the hospital's basement records, dusty and forgotten. He found the old incident logs from 2003. There it was, patient number 302A, female, age 22, Zhao Yin. But the date didn't match. It wasn't 2 months ago. It was 22 years ago. The file contained a death certificate. Cause, respiratory failure due to viral pneumonia. Location, Ward 3A. His breath caught. Zhao Yin had died long before he ever treated her. He turned to the recent file, the one with his signature, the one he remembered. The face was identical. Same scar under the chin. Same handwriting on the admission form. Impossible. He tore through the pages, desperate for explanation. At the back of the old file, he found a faded note written in blue ink. She kept asking for the doctor who promised she'd recover. Said he visited her every night, but there was no such doctor on duty. Li Wen dropped the file. The papers scattered like dead leaves. He had been visiting her every night, or someone wearing his face had. 6. The mirror. He stopped sleeping altogether. Every reflection, every glass door, every stainless surface seemed to shimmer faintly, as if something watched from beneath. One night, while washing his hands in the restroom, he noticed the mirror fog over. But the air was cold, not warm. And through the mist, he saw a second figure standing behind him, pale, slender, in a hospital gown. He turned. No one. When he looked back at the mirror, she was closer. "Why did you leave me?" the reflection whispered. He stumbled backward, knocking over a metal tray. Her reflection pressed its palm against the glass, leaving a print of water that slowly slid down like a tear. Then she was gone. 7. The rain. It rained again that night. The city lights blurred into streaks through the hospital windows. Li Wen found himself drawn, almost unwillingly, back to Ward 7. The door was ajar, swaying slightly with the draft. Inside, the room was dark except for the lightning flashing beyond glass. Water pooled across the floor, glimmering faintly. And there she was. Zhao Yin stood by the window, hair hanging over her face, hospital gown drenched as if she'd just stepped out of the rain. "Dr. Lee," she said softly. "It's cold." He froze. Every rational thought screamed to run, but his body wouldn't move. "You said I'd get better," she whispered. "You said you wouldn't leave." Her eyes lifted, empty sockets bleeding water. He backed away, trembling. "You're not real. You're—" She smiled, a faint, broken thing. "Then why do you dream of me?" Lightning flared, blinding. When his vision cleared, she was gone. Only the window remained open, curtains billowing in the wind. On the wall, written in dripping water, "Don't forget me. 8. The flood." The next morning, the nurses found Ward 7 soaked as if a pipe had burst. But no pipe was broken. The water came from nowhere. Lewin didn't show up for his shift. They found him hours later, sitting on the floor of his office, staring at a puddle forming beneath his desk. His eyes were unfocused, his lips pale. "She's still here," he murmured. "She won't let go." They transferred him to a psychiatric wing in another hospital. But every night, the nurses there reported the same thing. Water seeping from the corners of his room, the faint sound of dripping, and Lewin whispering to someone unseen, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." 9. Epilogue, the new resident. A year later, a new resident took over Lewin's old post at Huiling General. Her name was Dr. Qian Rue. She was bright, confident, unafraid of rumors. She'd heard stories about the ghost ward, but she didn't believe them. One night, while finishing her rounds, she passed Ward 7. The lights were off, but she noticed the door slightly open. Inside, the air smelled faintly of disinfectant. Something else. Damp earth, maybe. She turned to leave, but paused. There was a soft tapping sound, like water dripping. Drip, drip, drip. She frowned. Leak again. She stepped closer, crouching to check the floor. A small puddle spread beneath the last bed by the window. When she straightened, she caught a glimpse of movement, her reflection in the glass. Only, it wasn't her reflection. The figure in the window wore a white coat. Male, pale, eyes hollow, and beside him, a girl in a hospital gown held his hand. Lightning flashed. For a brief second, their faces turned toward her, both faint, translucent. Then the lights flickered. The puddle was gone. The room empty. Dr. Qian stood frozen. But when she finally found the courage to leave, she noticed something written on the door. Faint, almost erased by time. Ward 7, restricted access. Under maintenance. And beneath that, carved faintly into the wood. "Promise me you won't forget."